7 o'clock at night, and I opened my food truck today, which is not normally open on Monday, just to serve lunch. So yeah, so anyway, here we go. It's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and jump in. Welcome everybody to Food Truck 101 from beginner to winner. I am your host for this book discussion, Lauren Bell. I am the owner of Double Trouble Philly Cheesesteaks, and I own that business with my twin sister Lori and her husband Keith. So thank you and welcome. Joining us tonight and every Monday night is, I call him my author extraordinaire and the creator and founder of this Facebook group, Food Truck Training, which today has over 22,500 members and is growing every day. I'm amazed. Bill is the author of Food Truck 101 from beginner to winner. He has also written other great books, such as Putting the Cart Before the Dog or Taking It to the Streets. Bill brings 45 years of experience from this industry. He also has another book on the way, so stay tuned for that. And he has run large restaurant chains, food trucks, hot dog carts, etc. Bill and Melissa, his wife, spend countless hours maintaining the integrity and the professionalism of this group, which we so appreciate. Please help me welcome to the platform none other than the man himself, Mr. Bill Moore.
Thank you so much for the great introduction. You're always so feeding my ego. Melissa can't stand it when we get to the book club. Oh, thank you so much. It's
You're welcome.
I love being here and be able to talk with everybody. And it's really what the group's all about, is us sharing ideas and doing things right so that everybody can be as prosperous as absolutely possible. So I know you want to get the discussion started, so let's just go ahead and jump right in, since this is technically should have been the last chapter of the book.
Right? That ready, set, go. So one of the facts that Bill points out in this chapter that could be a motivator or deterrent, it says that in 3 out of 5 vendors will fail in the first 3 years of business. He also goes through to give some percentages. So one of the things that I want to stress out of Ready, Set, Go is that if you've been following the book thus far, many of you, this is round 2, right? Because we've completed the book last year. But if you've been following along, you will have a really pretty good idea of where you're headed. So I have a question for one of you, whoever, just jump in. One of you who do not have your food truck yet, who's kind of been following along, just answer this question for me. Are you motivated to continue, or do you feel like you've bitten off more than you can chew? Somebody just jump in and answer that question for me.
It's hard to say if you bit off more than you chew until you start chewing, right?
Right. Right. And this is that stage, because some people get some of this information and they start doing their research only to find out, wow, this is a lot, right? And it's just it just depends on how you bite that plate, right? You can look at the whole plate, or you could just finish one course at a time and get through it. So hopefully you're motivated to move on. Hopefully you're motivated to gather those tools. Is there anybody who already has a deposit on the truck that has not picked up their truck yet, but has taken that leap with their finances? Anybody?
Yes, Michael and Karina here.
Hi.
Hi.
So you put a deposit on your trailer, and it's being ordered, it's being worked on, but you don't have it yet, correct?
Yes, we found it new in December and waiting on a final part to come in to take possession, to get it wrapped, and then take possession.
So good. So Mr. Michael, answer this question for me, if you will. You have money in the game, so you have some skin in the game now, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that being said, you have a why, because you can't get this far and not know why you're doing it. Just share with us real quick, why this business, why now, why your type of food. Just give me just take 30 seconds or 60 seconds and just give me your why.
Okay. We're from Michigan, first of all. The why is it's always been my wife's dream, and I just got to be able to retire from the radio business after 35 years. So she's a great cook. We've thought about this and running it like a business that it should be.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. You do have that radio voice, you and Bill. You have that radio. Yes, you have that voice. So
But it
thank
was
you for
always in
sharing.
sales and management, never on air.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, you definitely have that voice. It's very assertive, very yes. I mean, so that's great. Well, good. Thank you for sharing that with us. So
You're welcome.
Bill, let's jump in. Bill, you jump in, and this part of the game, ready, set, go. What are some of the things at this point, Bill, that we should really be straining up? Because we're almost done this book. So there's some like Mr. Mike that got this deposit. He's ready to go. He just needs his truck in his hand. There are some that's about to take that lead. Share with us, Bill, some of these statistics that you found as starting at the finish line.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. One of the reasons that a lot of people give, and I found in conversations, if I talk to them about other people, tell me why other folks fail in the business, they're going to be more willing to tell me what they did. Because they'll say, yeah, this other guy did this is the way he failed. So before we even get to the statistics and talk about some of the failure points, I want to ask just the group in general that question. Thoughts on why other people fail? Because you got to consider if there's one person failing, why did they fail? And then how can I avoid that failure? So has anybody talked to anybody or heard some reasons why other vendors fail? Some of that 60% failure rate that we have?
I've heard Aaron, I had a friend in Georgia, and their failure was mainly they got too far in debt up front. And they couldn't keep up to the debt that they bought the trailer on credit, a big trailer. It's too big of a trailer. And so they kind of went all out and then realized that they kind of went too far.
Credit is one of those things that definitely scares people out of the business because you always have that pressure of making a payment. And amazingly, a lot of the folks that I talk to never mention credit, because over the years, I shared with you guys last week, whenever a new vendor comes into town, back when I was vending full time, I would go up and meet them and I would give them a generic business card that just had my name and my phone number on it. And I would say, hey, if you guys ever run into any kind of trouble, I'll buy you out lock, stock, and barrel. Here's my name, here's my number. So what that does is it plants a seed of potential failure in that newbie's mind. But then it also gives me an opportunity to be buying some equipment later that I can buy cheap and then either fix up and turn around and sell it, flip it like they do in a lot of the TV shows now. I was doing it back before it was classy to do it. You just buy something because somebody's so frustrated, they just want to get rid of the problem and they sell it to you for pennies on the dollar, then you can turn around and sell it for a profit. What I found during those conversations, and I'm going to share those statistics that are in the book, and these are my statistics. These are me talking to people. At the point that I wrote this, I talked to 119 different people. 26% of them said that they didn't fully understand the rules and regulations that are set by the health department and the local government. And the section of the book is called I Have a Food Dream. It talks about getting those rules and regulations under control. Imagine 1/4 of the people that are out on the street right now selling food don't actually understand the rules and regulations that they're supposed to be following. Or they found it to be too difficult to understand. Or they found them just to be something they just didn't want to mess with and they would ignore them. So the rules and regulations are very important. That's why it's the #1 chapter in the book, the very first chapter. Once we discuss the why, what's your personal motivation, then let's get into making that motivation a reality. You got to understand the rules and regulations. 23%, so almost another 1/4 of the people reported that they didn't use social media or any other real kind of marketing to promote their business. I'll talk about that in 2 different sections in the book. One's on marketing and the other one's on social media. So you got 2 chapters that cover this particular aspect. For the people that I talked to, a lot of them had the image in their mind that all they had to do was build a food truck. Because, I mean, let's face it, a food truck is very recognizable. You see that big opening on the side, you know it's selling food of some sort. So people are going to walk up to it. A lot of people that I talked to assumed that all they had to do was build a food truck, park it wherever they wanted, because, you know, they show it on TV, you just pull up to a street corner and there's a line of people. You pull into a grocery store, there's a line of people. Doesn't work that way. You got to get out and market. You got to get out and have social media. You've got to build your community. It's one of the things I talk about all through the book is building your community. 19% indicated they had trouble serving food fast enough. Now, we talk about this from time to time on the group, and you guys know that I am a big proponent of let's get the food out quickly and let's not waste time with the food delivery, because that's what we do. We deliver food to people. People come to us when they're hungry and they're already got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they're hungry. Their body has said, hey, let's get some food. So anything that we do to slow down that process of getting them fed magnifies any problem that we create. So a food that's a little bit slow coming out feels like hours to somebody that's hungry. Food that's not hot as it should be feels like it came out of the refrigerator to somebody that's hungry. See, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot when you don't understand that a food truck is a convenience. A convenience by implication means it's going to be fast. So don't hide behind, why cook to order? Guess what? You're slow. That's all that cook to order means. I am slow. I was doing my research for my new book last night, and I couldn't think of how to spell the last name of somebody that I knew from one of the restaurant chains that I worked at. So I had to look it up. And then it reminded me during that research of Dave Thomas, and he's the founder of Wendy's. I got to work with Dave Thomas a number of years ago, and he is exactly, if you ever saw his commercials, he's exactly like that. That's him. He's just a Southern boy through and through. But he tells it like it is. One of the things that he talked about was serving his food, his hamburgers, which are literally cooked to order, but they're not cooked to your order. When you go into a Wendy's and order a burger, it's already in the process of cooking because they understand somebody's coming in to order a burger. They sell hamburgers. So they got a reasonable chance of going ahead and having burgers on the grill cooking, knowing somebody's going to come in and buy it. Now, a food truck can do the exact same thing. They just have to learn their guest patterns. But you can cook food and have food setting up ready to go. You don't have to hold it under heat lamps and be like the old fast food commercials where you'd see 200 sandwiches sitting under heat lamps. But you can have food in different stages of doneness so that when somebody comes up and orders it, you're only 30 seconds and it's done, ready to go. That's how you take care of your business, being fast enough. And I have made literally 10,000 or more hamburgers, tens of thousands of hot dogs. And that doesn't count all the other sandwiches I've done. You know, we did roast beef and Italian sandwiches, and I've done, we had a Philly cheesesteak restaurant for a while. So I've done all different kind of sandwiches, but you got to be fast. You got to get the food out. 17% of the people said that they had too big of a menu. And I talk about that in What's on the Menu chapter. You cannot have a big menu. You cannot be all things to all people, so don't even try. You only have so much storage capacity on your food truck. And the more that you spread that out, well, you know, I like this and I like this, and I got to have chicken and I got to have fish and I got to have, oh, and I got to have mackerel and cod, and I've got to have all these different varieties. So now you got a whole bunch of cases of food that's sitting going nowhere. Pick a handful of things and be really, really good at them. Going back to the Wendy's example, when Dave Thomas started Wendy's in 1969, and my dad used to go to the Wendy's in Columbus, Ohio, their menu was hamburgers, Frosties, French fries, sodas, and chili. That was it. And the only reason they sold chili is because, remember, I told you they always had hamburgers in different stages of being cooked. Well, once they got done, if there was no one there to order it, that hamburger meat was what they made the chili out of the next day. So they pull it off the grill and they would cool it down, properly cool it down so they could cut it up the next day and turn it into chili. So they had an outlet for the food that was cooking. So they always could have fresh food cooking, and it was no big deal if somebody didn't come in and order it because they had to have meat for the chili the next day. I ran Wendy's for a number of years, and there were many times where we had to sit and cook hamburger meat to do for our chili the next day because we got really, really good at knowing how to anticipate the guest flow and knowing when to have food cooking and when not to have food cooking. So it can be done, but you got to study your business. 15% of the people that I talked to felt like they worked way too hard compared to what they were making in profit. And like I mentioned there, profit and the P&L statement is mentioned 110 times in the book. 110 times I talk about how to be profitable, what you need to do to figure out your profitability. Talk about break-even points. I talk about a business plan. I give you information so that you can open up a business and be successful. Between the book, between the Facebook group, there's enough information there that no one has a reason to fail. The only reason that you're possibly going to fail is because you don't apply what you have presented to you. I see Lauren shaking her head. Tell me about some of the things that you guys have changed over the time from you opened to how you are now. What's different about your operation? How did you learn?
Oh my goodness. We learned, well, one, we got to learn how our community spend money, right? The community where we wanted to be. We used to go to some areas and just people would come up and look at your menu and go, oh my God, $10, whatever. And so one of the things we had to do, we had to get out of our comfort zone. And we had to learn how people spend money, and we had to go where they don't mind spending money. That was one. Two was our inventory, really learning to manage the inventory. Sometimes you want to get there, you want to be ahead of the game, so you make your meat and you get all this done, and then you can't, if you're open day after day after day, then yes, you could use your meat. But what if you're not open for the next 3 days? How do you manage that inventory? How do you manage freezer space? We learned not to listen to people and their numbers. For example, we used to run to events. Oh my God, they're expecting 500 people. So now we're out trying to spend money to feed 500 people. Nope. And so we tailored our menu. Our menu is very simple. So for instance, we have a cheese steak. And then for people who wanted our special diet, we do keto. So we'll prepare our meat, add vegetables with no bread. So we offer that. I take that same meat and then we do a chicken cheesesteak. So that's the two variations for the hot sandwich. Then I do an Italian hoagie. Well, that Italian hoagie could be broken down to a ham and cheese hoagie, a cheese hoagie, a vegetable hoagie with the same ingredients without overbuying or buying more stuff. That was a big deal for us because at the end of the day and at the end of the week, we were throwing away so much food. Bill came to the truck one day. And you know how you finish on the grill and you scrape your stuff and it falls into your little drip pan? When I went to pull out the drip pan, Bill said, that's a case of meat. Like, what are you doing? He is so just learning how to manage that. So now in my head, ever since he said that, I'm careful about how I ration my meat. Measuring became a big deal for us after that, because it's like, you're throwing money down the drain. Mm-hmm. You need to capitalize on that. We've changed our prices and we don't apologize for that. We just make sure that you get the quality and that when you get your food, it's hot, it's savory. If there's something that's not quite right, we fix it. There's no questions. We want to make you happy at the end of the day. And then we're going to step off the truck and check with you to make sure it was to your satisfaction. So we've changed a lot of things. This is 3 years in September we've been in business, and most things about our business and how we started has changed. And that's okay. You have to make the necessary adjustments. Big menus, number one killer to me. Big menus are killers, because even when where we park at now, there are 7 food trucks. on the weekend. 7, me and Lori's job on the weekends is to figure out how you're going to eat from us and not the other 6. So 1, like Bill said, we have to have a plan, and we have to be able to execute it. And then we have to be able to intermingle, because now we got 6 trucks competing. So if you get your food on time, if I'm racing the clock, like Bill said, I drop those fries, I'm racing the fryer. Because if I could get you all your food and it's hot, while that truck is over there waiting 25 minutes to cook his chicken or do whatever, we're ahead of the game. We're ahead of the game. And so now to step out of a truck at a food truck park and see people at every table have your food on the table, that to me is an accomplishment. Every table has our food on it. So everything has changed. Make the adjustments, you guys. Don't be afraid to make the necessary adjustments, because they're going to have to be made. Things are higher. The cost of everything fluctuates, and you got to be able to bend and kind of go with the flow. I hope I answered your question, Bill.
You did. You did exactly what I wanted you to do. Everything that Lauren just said is in the book in some way, shape, or form. She talked about inventory. She talked about marketing. She talked about understanding your market. That's part of your research for a business plan. She talked about the size of the menu. All of that stuff is in the book. There's nothing in my book that is a secret. There's nothing that's...
No cliffhangers.
There's no cliffhangers. I don't leave you going, well, hey, you got to buy my course now to actually learn how to make money.
Exactly.
You buy that book, you apply what I've said in that book and get clarification. If something's not clear on the Facebook group, you can be successful. And one of the things I think either you or Lori said at one point is, if somebody buys the book and buys the course, or somebody buys the book and participates in the group and they're not successful, they ain't trying.
Right.
And
right.
That's honestly what it comes down to. You always have to be analyzing what you're doing. One of the things that I believe it's towards the end of the book, towards the actual end of the book, I talk about, you always have to make today better than yesterday was. And it only has to be a tiny bit. One of the things on the logo for the website that I have, it has a little thing that says 1% better. And what that means is, if you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, and you keep working at that, it's just a little bit of improvement. But if you do the math on that, I'm a big math guy. The math on that is, you go 1.01 and you raise it to 365 power, that would be 1 year. You do the math on that, and that comes out to 37 times better than you started. So just a 1% improvement every single day creates that big of a change in your business. So being, 1% faster today than you were yesterday, 1% more efficient on your food control, 1% better on getting more sales in, 1% better on your social media. Little tiny steps of improvement add up over time. And you just got to keep that in mind. Don't give up because things get tough. I can remember in the 90s especially, I was ready to throw in the towel. I just had come back from the Virgin Islands, which, yeah, sad Bill, came back from the Virgin Islands. I lived over there for a number of years, came back to Florida, and got a job at Shoney's. And it was probably the most boring job I've ever had, because when you're in a sit-down restaurant, the pace is really slow because you have so much management underneath you. I was a general manager. I had 3 shift managers, so I never actually did anything other than walk around. And then under the shift managers, we had a kitchen manager and a dining room manager for every shift. So you had a whole bunch of management. And then you got servers and cooks and that kind of thing as well. So I'd have to find things to do to keep me happy. There would be many days I would actually run the dish machine just to have something to do, because the restaurant was running so well that I'm bored. We were doing as much sales as we possibly could. We would be full. We seated 250 people, and we'd stay full all day long because we were in Destin, Florida. We could not be busy. And it was boring. I was just ready to nope, I'm done with it. You know, the store's doing good. I'm done with it. And then I changed my perception of what I was doing in the business. I stopped thinking about what I was doing and how can I get the other people to get them elevated up? How can I get them into my position? How can I get them, you know, the dining room manager to be a shift manager, the kitchen manager to be a shift manager? So I stopped looking inward and started looking outward. And that really made a big difference for me. So let's go on to my favorite saying. In every book I've written, you will see this at some point in the book.
I love that, Lindsay.
You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And that's by Zig Ziglar. He said that in his book that he wrote in the early 70s. And he says it on almost
all of his, yes.
Every
Yes.
single speech that he gives, he will say that at some point.
Yes.
And that's such a powerful thing. If you think about it, you in food service, you on your food truck, you on a hot dog cart, if you get enough people fed the way they want to be fed and they're happy, they come back. And then that's going to lead to you getting what you want out of that hot dog cart, whatever it is, or out of that food trailer, whatever it is. You know, my goals when I started a hot dog cart or a hot dog trailer is what I had, are different than anybody else's. And that's okay. You know, my definition of success is different than everybody else's. I'm happy with what I've done in my life. There's other people who look at what I've done and go, big deal. But it doesn't matter what they say or think. It's I'm happy with what I've done. And I did it doing exactly what's on that screen, helping enough other people get what they wanted. And that's the big change in me in the 90s was I started helping other people. Started looking how I could teach people, how I could make it better for them in whatever they wanted to do. And I've hired a number of people that had no desire to run restaurants, to become managers. But my thought process was, how can I help this person to be a better employee for whomever they go work for? And when you look at it that way, people start to follow you around. In the city that I worked in, it's Fort Walton Beach, Florida, I changed companies a number of times during the 90s. Some of it was out of just sheer boredom, like I said at Shoney's, for instance. But every time I would change companies and take over a new restaurant or work for a new chain, sometimes I'd have staffing issues, but people would follow me around. As soon as they heard, well, you know, Bill's at Hardee's now, or Bill's at Burger King now, or Bill's at Dodge's, they would come to work for me. Not because I was working with a new company, not because a new company might pay more money. They wanted to work with me. And that's what you got to look at. When people tell me they have a hard time hiring now, it's easy. You got to find people. But when you have the attitude that, oh, they're just going to be on their cell phone, oh, you know, the kids are lazy. Anybody will be as lazy as you allow them to be. Anybody will be as useless as you allow them to be. If they're on their cell phone, it's because you let them. All you have to do is say one time, put the cell phone away and I don't want to see it out again. And then if they pull the cell phone out, I told you I didn't want to see it again, I'm going to ask you to leave. Once you do that a couple times, the staff understands that, oh, he's serious or she's serious. It's just a matter of you keeping your word. You can help everybody get what they want. And when you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. Next week, we're going to talk about the bonus section.